You guys know me. I cannot finish Jubilee videos. They just cause me too much pain. So we're going to watch as much as we can. It's called Should Men Have a Say? Pro-Life Women versus Pro-Choice Men.
Say you're coming from a family and you have 4 children, right? And you get pregnant and you have the 5th one, but that's the straw that broke the camel's back, and now your entire family's homeless.
But it doesn't mean that their life is worth any less.
And
though.
also,
let him talk, let him talk, let him talk.
My name is Gen, and I explore social and controversial issues through both sides. And I'll be moderating this middle ground episode of pro-life women versus pro-choice men. And the first prompt is, abortion allows men to avoid responsibility. Agreeers, please step forward.
I think it absolutely does because, for example, the cost of a first trimester abortion, which is majority of abortions, they cost between $500 to $800. Whereas if you're paying child support and you actually pay it, it's going to be about $5,000 each year. So like 18 years of someone's life is over $90,000. So I think that is a significant financial responsibility, and it's way easier to just pay for a one-time abortion than to support the child their whole entire life.
So many men too will just send a girl money and go get it done.
Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about it.
I don't like to think that all men are pigs like that, but there's definitely men that brag about that all the time. You know?
And also just men taking responsibility for birth control. Where is that male birth control pill? Men don't want to be parents. Let's have a vasectomy. Right now, I think it's 500,000 vasectomies a year, but then there's 930,000 abortions. So we don't want abortion to be birth control. And again, laying that on the woman, oh, well, you go ahead and you have an abortion because I wasn't responsible.
I'm Christian, and it's
what?
No sex before marriage. And for me, everyone knew, no, I'm not married and I have a kid, but I'm not going to cover that mistake I made that I should have already made for myself not to do that act. Just take responsibility for my actions, and now I live it, and I can use my story to encourage people instead of let's hide it.
Can I say that it's so reductive to say my mistake that I made? Because first of all, there's lots of instances where people don't make mistakes and get pregnant. Obviously, the most pertinent would be instances of rape. But I'm even talking about instances where birth control fail, which happens. There are very few birth control methods that are 100% effective. In fact, the only birth control method that is 100% effective is no longer 100% effective, evidently. It used to be League of Legends, but apparently that's not true anymore, given the fact that Tyler 1 is going to have a kid. So there's no method that's effective. He's the exception. So yeah, there are a lot of instances where birth control just fails. What do you do then? You take all of your pills and it failed anyways. Or you take your shots, or you have your implant and it fails anyways. Then what? Well, fuck those people. Too bad. It's Tyler 1 because he's the only one.
Hide it away and cover things and just put it away so no one knows.
I love that you brought up vasectomies and everything, because I'm here for male birth care. When men are affected by issues like that.
Male birth control is not a substitute for abortion. Male birth control should exist, and also we should still have access to what is it called? Abortion. Be responsible for your choices. What is the result of sex? Coming in your mom? Mostly. That's the result of sex for me, personally.
That's when things change. I'm always of this mind of if men could actually get pregnant, things would, just this whole conversation would actually be very different.
I'm aware the majority of men suck. I'm aware of that. We're not great as a species. At least from my small little sample size of the 4 of us here, I know for a fact that if we were in that situation, it's not about the lack of, oh, okay, I'm getting rid of my financial responsibility to this child. I think it's both sides. I don't think that it's one specific gender that would feel the responsibility of having the child, caring for it. You know, we live in a day and age where stay-at-home dads get paternity leave too. So it's not this type of thing where we are forced to make women into mothers and keep them at home. And I think it's kind of demonizing to see it more as a man-woman thing, and only the men are getting the flack for that.
At the end of the day, like, we're talking about the responsibilities placed on obviously both parents, right? What we just need to remember is that there's so many responsibilities. I would argue more responsibilities that fall onto the woman. We're seeing a lot of single mothers more so than fathers. If men could get pregnant, you could walk to like a pharmacy and get an abortion with like a flu shot, like at the same time, same day. Get like a little sticker too. Like, that's the reality, I think. It's just for so much of history, these legislative decisions have been made exclusively by men. I think it's really important to now value and put a lot of emphasis on the perspectives of women who feel like this responsibility just isn't really being understood.
I do think it's interesting, though, about...
I'm going to say something also. This is, I think, where I go too far for most people. It's your body. Do you know how traumatizing it would be to have something growing inside of you that you didn't want? And other people are allowed to say, well, I care more about the thing that's inside of you than you. Like, that feels so insane to do to a person. The reason aliens exists? Yeah. Obviously, with like in the Aliens movie, you know, that thing is like a murderous creature, right? The xenomorph. And obviously human babies are allegedly cute. But when nobody wants something growing inside of them that they didn't ask for. And I feel like if you knew that there was something growing inside of you and you didn't want it there, you would be in constant torture. Like, I don't think it's fair to tell somebody else that they have to force this thing to continue to grow in them. It's basically bodily autonomy. I just think that not having abortion is a cruel and unusual punishment for people who don't want to have to give birth. I think it's cruel and unusual punishment to do that to someone. Because if you want to, it's like a miracle. And I know plenty of women who are like, I cannot wait to be pregnant. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be round. It's going to be so much fun. I knew people who were pregnant. They were like, I loved it. Obviously, the morning sickness sucks and all that stuff sucks. But I just felt like I was part of something greater than myself. And it brought me joy to know that I was making something. Like, my body is creating something. That's amazing. Yeah. It can be an amazing thing, or it can be a fucking terrifying thing. How are you allowed to force someone else into this? It just seems fucked up.
You said about legislators being men, because Roe v. Wade was decided by a majority male SCOTUS. But then Roe v. Wade actually had, like, you know, not that many women, but more women than Roe v. Wade. So
yeah, sure.
You know,
like, men can be.
You mean Dobbs?
Yeah, Dobbs. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's always this kind of notion that like women make this decision kind of lightly. So like saying like, oh yeah, men are going to use this to kind of just, you know, skirt around their responsibilities. It's like,
this is the other thing that's really, really, really important to this conversation. We'll talk about this in a second. Abortion feel very lucky and very blessed that I've never had to have one, because everybody that I know that has had to have one has described it as being like a very traumatizing experience. And it has never been a decision that they've made lightly. And it's always been something that they dreaded and something that caused them a lot of mental distress. But they knew in that moment that was not the right time for them to have a kid. This idea that it's like, oh, it's Tuesday, time to go get my punch card for the abortion of the month. At 9, I get a free one. Like, nobody is doing that, dude. Also, you have like a recovery time when you have to deal with an abortion. You know, I did not know this because I have not, again, had the displeasure of having to. But did you guys know that Plan B makes you feel like shit for a month straight? It makes you just feel like you're like sick. Did you guys know? I didn't know that. I did not know that. I thought it was just like a little pill and you took it and it was like, ooh, yay. Okay, I'm done. No, it's like you're just like bleeding all the time and you're in pain and you feel like you're sick and your head hurts and all this other shit. It's like, whoa, for a month? Oh my God, that sounds horrible. Christ. It's like taking bleach to pass a piss test. It was awful to see firsthand. I took Plan B once and I didn't feel anything. Damn, you must be one of the lucky ones. I've had to take it 3 times. This one time, I had my period for a month. That sounds so bad. Okay, anyways, going back.
You know, it still is, or supposed to be, the choice of the woman. It's not some decision that's just like, oh, okay, I got pregnant, oh shoot, let me just get an abortion. It's like this weighs on women so heavily, whether you are coming from the pro-choice or the pro-life side of things. Like, this isn't something that, you know, a decision that anyone's making very lightly.
I think we agree.
Yeah.
This is a very weighty decision, 100%.
And women are impacted after too. My friend had an abortion when she was 19, still thinks about the baby to this day. So it's a very hard decision. I agree with you.
How could men can't tell women what to do with their bodies?
No, men can't tell women what to do with their bodies, but
Obviously, this is very cis-het or whatever, but I will just say, I don't think that you have the right to someone else's body. I don't think you have the right to tell someone else, no, I don't care how you feel. You have to let that potential person continue to grow inside of you. I don't care how much distress it causes you. I don't care how unhappy it makes you. I don't care if you feel suicidal. I don't care. I, someone who doesn't have to deal with this, is saying that you should have to deal with it. How entitled do you have to be? How much of an entitled prick do you have to be? And it's like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I get it. It does. There is like another side of this story that sucks, which is if you are in a long-term committed relationship with someone, like you're a cis man with a cis woman, and you're in a long-term committed relationship, and you want to have kids, and your partner wants to have kids as well. But they decide they're not ready for kids in that moment and they get an abortion. I get that. I get how that could feel bad. I get how like you could feel like you've been stripped of a decision. If your wife decided to get an abortion and she said, I don't feel like I need your permission, or I need you to weigh in on this. And that feels bad. I understand. And I do empathize with that, because I imagine if you are someone who does want to have a kid, you don't get to pick that. But sadly, you just don't, it's not fair to the other person. It's just not fair to the other person. Especially considering how many complications come with pregnancy. Also, Gremlo, hi, Gremlo, hi, Raiders, hi, guys. How are you guys doing? How's stream? Especially when adoption exists, yeah. It's just the problem is there are so many complications you can have in pregnancy. There's so many negative consequences of becoming pregnant. We're not even talking about childbirth. We're just talking about pregnancy. And it's just, it sucks, but that's a decision that has to be left to the person who's actually doing the incubating. Their feelings are the ones that matter the most. Because they're the ones that are doing the actual work. And my stance would be the same. If men got pregnant instead of women, I think women should not have a say in whether or not men can get abortions. Because it's not fair for me to tell you how you have to live. Maybe if abortion was completely pain-free, with no negative consequences or side effects, I would agree with being a pro-lifer. But that's just not the case. That's just not that's just not even close to what happens. Same thing happens with cis people trying to police trans people's access to healthcare. It's like, where do you feel like you get the right to go do that? To tell someone else how to do that, how to live their life, and what. Anyways.
But when we're talking about abortion, there is a separate body. It's not my liver. It's not my kidney. It's a separate body.
I would agree with that too. It's like a father should still have a say in like the life of their child, if they want to keep it or not, because it's 50% their DNA as well.
I was apprehensive to come forward because that's kind of used as men not to be able to say something about their child. And like you said, it's not the woman's body that's being hurt in the situation. So they don't have a right to tell women what to do with their bodies, but it's not their body that's being hurt.
I think this is generally used in
and
the
whose
context.
body is growing the child? Whose body? Whose body? Whose body is having their nutrients taken away? I feel like you're really making it sound like a parasite and you're really dehumanizing like the human body or whatever. Bitch, women be losing their teeth to pregnancy. You know that? You know your teeth can just fall out? It literally is a parasite. Little T, thank you for the prime. Bro, I'm too high to be this angry. Sorry, my bad. my bad. My sister had twins and her teeth were falling out. It's wild. Yeah. So like, yeah, they're not asking for you to do certain things with your life. They're saying, well, I care about the baby, not your organs or whatever. But the thing is, that baby impacts everything else about your body. That baby sucking up them nutrients, that calcium. And once it starts impacting the rest of your organs, that is someone that's saying, I think your body belongs to me. You are a growth vat for me, and I'm allowed to make this decision on your behalf. Talk about dehumanizing, man.
Stuff like legislation, and it's used to reflect on how there are a lot of male legislators who may not particularly know like what it's like to go through pregnancy.
Well, let's get more women as legislators. And the other thing is, if men can choose sex, I would hope they would be able to choose fatherhood too.
I'll be honest, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and when me and my wife found out she was pregnant, we did, consider an abortion. We were very young. We were just going out to college. We had our whole lives ahead of us. I'm going to become a father. I want to be able to be the best father. And luckily in our situation, we have some familial support. We have housing if need be. We're very driven. We're going to college. We have jobs. But I left it to her because she is assuming all the risk. I think the male should be, at least in my personal opinion, informed, but I don't think there should be a statute that says, men have to be informed, because obviously there are circumstances where rape, incest, or just weird circumstances where probably they don't think they need to be informed.
I think that's interesting because I also have a 4-year-old son and I got pregnant when I was 18, so it was like the same kind of.
Sorry, I'm convinced Jubilee is a right-wing force birth activists and 4 male cosplayers. What a joke. Yeah. Yeah. If I stab someone, I can't be compelled to donate blood to save their life, even though I am the cause of their circumstance. Beautifully, beautifully phrased. It's just not fair. It's just not fair to do that to another person. It's inhumane to do that to another person on a fetus that potentially won't even become a child. Because the thing is, miscarriages are very common. And late-term abortions because of like health or birth defects are also very common. More common than they should be is what I'm saying.
That situation, I was a senior in high school. I had offers to go run track Division I, and I always would choose life. And everyone said, "You're ruining your life. Why would you do that?" You know. But for me, like I always knew, this is a life. That risk happened to me, and like I knew the consequences of it. So when I decided I'm keeping it, and I even ran track for 3 months while I was pregnant, and just didn't tell my school, and broke 2 school records while I was pregnant, and even don't let other people tell me what I can accomplish because I had a baby young.
Your story can exist still within the confines of pro-choice because it's not preventing you from making that choice yourself.
Yeah. This is the thing that I never understand about pro-birthers, pro-forced birthers. Okay, cool. You don't want to have an abortion? Great, don't have one. In the same way, I would never tell someone that they had to remove a child. Or sorry, have a child. I also would never tell someone that they have to remove it. I don't have the authority to make that decision for you. I just don't. And nobody does. This is another great point. Corpses can't even have their organs collected for use, even though they don't need them anymore. Not without the permission of the person before their death. Dead people have more rights than women that are alive. Dead people have more rights to their organs than women who are alive. Let that sink in. Just think about that.
We're still just advocating for women that aren't necessarily able to have the same powerful story that you do, like because they aren't of the same means to make a different decision.
What is your connection to abortion, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I mean, my personal story, I was adopted. It's funny, like when this comes up, people always question, like, you were adopted. Like, why are you pro-choice? Like, if your mother had made a different decision, you wouldn't be here. I was adopted by an upper middle class Black family, which, like, especially when I was born, was not very common, still isn't very common. You're adopting children that look like you most commonly. Normally, people that can kind of afford that range are probably white, so the children of color are left behind. Fortunately, I was able to avoid that, but I am very cognizant that that's not the case for everyone else.
My friend Brandon, he was also adopted. I'm so thankful that your mother chose life and that you had a great family. He unfortunately didn't. He works in the pro-life space and he shares a story all the time, but he suffered a lot of abuse and now he's a pro-life advocate. But he always says, like, isn't that baby's life worth living still? Isn't it worth protecting still, even if it doesn't have the best circumstances? Because if we kind of take that route, then the kids who are less fortunate in terms of finances and babies of color, they're going to suffer the most from allowing abortion.
But the thing is, people on the left are not advocating for abortions at like the 3rd trimester. Because I agree, past viability, it feels morally wrong to have that abortion because that is basically a living thing at that point. But the reality, of course, is that no one is even getting 3rd trimester abortions in the first place. The only people getting them, the percentage of people getting them is like 1% lower. And almost all of those cases, I think it's like 99% of those cases are because of either birth defects or like the child is not going to live outside of the womb for more than a few hours or days, or it's at risk of, it will risk the life of the mother. Almost all of the third trimester pregnancies are because of actual health complications. I don't think that we have to protect the life of the baby when the baby is the size of a grain of rice and is just a clump of cells. No, that's not where, I don't believe that that's where life starts. Completely, mm-mm. I had to endure labor at 20 weeks due to the fact that my baby's heartbeat stopped. Then when I was pregnant with my rainbow baby, I had so many health conditions, it almost killed me. But I personally could not choose to abort due to the loss. However, if I had not had that loss, I might have had the abortion as I almost died. I wouldn't change my kid for the world, but it's also context. But that's why it's like a personal choice thing. It's just that people should be able to make that decision themselves. It's not fair. If it wouldn't be fair for someone else in your life to say, no, I don't care what you want to do. You need to have this abortion. Or I don't care what you want to do. You have to keep this kid.
I love that perspective too. I think that hang on.
I can say something.
Yes, you go first. Sorry.
How amazing is your birth mom?
That's crazy.
I mean, that she would do that.
Kidney
and give you
donation.
life. I think when people are against abortion, we want to encourage people and support that and fix all the institutional problems that you guys have brought up that are real. We don't want women to have to feel that that's their only choice.
I don't think what we say about people's bodies is gender specific. I think men and women can both say things about each other. You mentioned a good point about legislators, right? I used to work in politics. It's interesting to see the people that make decisions, not just about women's bodies, right? They make decisions about the roads that we drive on, the food that we eat, or the quality of the air that we breathe, and they don't know what they're talking about,
Life
both men
starts
and
at
women.
10 years old.
So I don't really think that gender has anything to do with who can make decisions. I think education, compassion, empathy, those are really good tools to have. My mother, for example, she's a pro-abortion advocate, an activist. She is a woman who loves me. She's had multiple abortions in her life. I was supposed to be aborted. That was the plan until she was, I guess today you would say, like, coerced. Family and friends brought her to church and they're like, think about this, And she decided to keep me, right?
And if I'm correct, you're also a Democrat. Is that correct?
I am, yeah.
So you're a pro-life Democrat
Yeah.
who is also a woman.
And we're out there. Being a Democrat in that perspective, I believe in social programs, right? I believe in government assistance. Maybe a lot of people disagree with me, but there's a lot of good social programs out there, right? Some of them need more work, but we have WIC, right? We have just these programs that could use more funneling. Adoption is messy.
I think it's just really interesting, right? Because a lot of pro-lifers tend to be a little conservative, but part of empathy is being able to understand other people and their situations, or at least acknowledging when you may not understand. What it means to be a woman, what it means to go through pregnancy. Like this whole prompt, right, is about whether or not men really, I think, understand that, and whether or not their opinion has this value or a heightened value when they don't understand.
I wanted to go back on what you said about not being for social programs. I'm definitely for social programs.
Nice.
One thing is if you are against abortion, you need to be concerned about the baby after it's born, and that's one thing that's always said to people who are against abortion. And I volunteer at a shelter for pregnant women who are fleeing domestic violence. I know so many people who have fostered and adopted, and I do agree that we need to donate our time and our resources to that cause if we are going to be against abortion. I totally agree with you.
You can be a feminist and pro-life.
Having known someone who is on WIC, it's peanuts, like next to nothing. For Europeans or also people that don't know, WIC, I believe, stands for Women, Infants, and Children. It's basically a food supplement program for mothers who need it for their kids and that sort of thing. And like most other welfare programs in the United States, it is so gutted, you get peanuts thrown at you. And they're like, babe, we're helping you. Here's $5. You can be a feminist and pro-life. I'm going to lose my shit.
Life. Agreers?
Feminism is literally built on the basis of women should be able to have the same rights that men have, and they should be treated the same way that men are treated, and they should be able to make the decisions they want to make. Reproductive rights is one of the core tenets of feminism. I fostered and adopted 8 children. I'm pro-choice as fuck. Those kids were traumatized by these supposed systems. Yeah, it's like, it's just such like pie in the sky shit to say, well, I'm pro-life, but I just think we should start funding those programs more. It's like, okay, bitch, we're not there yet. The programs are not funded right now. Oh, let me guess, you're going to bankroll them? Are you personally going to bankroll? No, you're not? Then shut the fuck up. You're not allowed to say we should have better funding. And until we get better funding, people have to forcibly give birth. No, the funding comes first, and then you're allowed to make that decision. You're not allowed to make that argument when the funding isn't there. That's not. Can you imagine signing a contract with someone and the contract is like, you will perform 9 months of labor building me a house, and I maybe will compensate you afterward. We just have to figure out how we're going to compensate you. We don't know yet, but ideally, we compensate you some way. No. It's like saying I'm a socialist, but I think we should have CEOs making the big decisions. Oh my God. Those programs also are straight bullshit to the point where they basically don't even exist. Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, it's just dystopian thinking being brought to their being wormy. Palate cleanser.